Alright, well, our neck is it's kind of reached about the halfway point. We're about to cross the hump. We got our heels on, our fingerboards on. We got to kind of cross the midway point. Next thing we kind of need to do is we need to radius the back of our neck because it's still square. We need to drill it out for our tuning pegs. We need to put fret position markers in it. I think that's probably the next step we'll address. First thing we're going to do, I think, is we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how I shape the back of the neck. I take a router and radius as much of the neck as I can, and then I hand shape it with a rasp and then sand it. I'll show you most of that. Again, some of that's just basic woodworking, and you know, it takes a certain amount of time and a certain feel. I'm going to set it up here, and let's see if I can get it out here to where you'll be able to see it. This handy little spot on my bench that I use to clamp things down to and with. I'm going to grab my router. Alright, let's make sure we're in frame here so you can see what's going on here. Alright, now since there's a curve on here and an angle on the end of the neck, the router having a flat base isn't going to hit all of this. So I'm going to have to do part of it by hand, but I like to get as much of it as I can hit with the router, just so I kind of have a certain amount of radius kind of there. So I just kind of go ahead and bring my router in. What I use is a 5/8 radius bit. The pilot bit will ride along the side of the neck and just give me a guide as to, you know, I bring it right in there. And I've already kind of got my router set at a depth that I like. You can kind of experiment on your own as to the depth you want to go to. As you can see, I'm only getting just a few inches in the neck right in there. I still got all this area here and all this area here that the router doesn't get to. And I've pretty much got to do that by hand. And you might say, well, why not just do all of it by hand? Well, you know, I could. And there are a lot of guys that they do them all by hand. Well, my answer to that is, when you do 20, 30, 40, 50 of these a month, you look for any break you can get with power tools. Plus, this just kind of gives me a guide to know where I want to go. I see my center line and I see my radius, and it just kind of gives me a jumping off point, if you will. So I come in with my rasp. Start at the front. I'll put my scarf joint. And I'm not going to say that we have to stick 100% to the radius. You don't have to. You can take and turn your C-shaped radius into a V shape. You can turn it into something else. The radius of the router bit really is just kind of a guide, a jumping off spot. It's just a guide, a good place to get you started. Kind of get you into the basic shape of where you want to be. The rest of that, you just kind of get there with the rasp and the down to where I know I'm in the neighborhood of where I want to be. I switch from the rough side of the rasp down to the smoother side, and I take some of the rougher grooves out. And I'll go back, and before I take it off the bench, I'll hit that with sandpaper. Neck, go kind of slow at it. God, I don't know how many necks I've done. I've really lost track. I've been doing this a long time, so it's a feel thing anymore. It's almost muscle memory at this point for us. Go at it maybe a little slower than I do. Not wrong with that. Certainly no race. Maybe I guess it is a little bit, because we usually have them kind of stacked up to do. I usually come back and I follow that up with usually some 80 or 100 grit sandpaper. Alright, well that's pretty good for taking it down to 100 grit. We will sand it some more. There is some more to be done there. But, you can see our neck's nice and radiused. It's taken shape. We have some radiusing to do inside of our neck there, and a little bit of glue line to clean up some more. Some sanding to do in here to finish this out. But it's getting there. Alright, next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and drill our holes for our headstock, and we're going to clean up our curves in here. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to set up the drill press. I'm going to go ahead and mark our neck for our holes for our dot position markers, and we'll move on to that step. So let me get some of that stuff set up and we'll move to that.